Hello, this is Spellsquires MTG, and today we have episode 4 of Sporefrog Shenanigans. Today we have a face-off between Omnath, Locus of Creation, Mizzix of the Izmagnus, and Niv Mizzet parun. My Omnath deck is a lands matter deck. It generates value off playing lands. It makes loads of tokens and you swing for the win. Next we have up my Alex Mizzix deck. This aims to play a load of instant sorcery cards, copy them, recur them from your graveyard, basically do a load of shenanigans of instant sorceries. And then Jack's Niv Mizzet deck is a combo deck. It aims to win with one of 3 cards: Curiosity, Tandem Lookout, or Athena, where you draw your whole library and ping someone to death. This game is very interesting. It's a very long one. I haven't edited it yet, but it was a longer game. So let's get into it. I draw for turn and play an Evolving Wilds. I then crack it. Jack plays an Exotic Orchard and draws for turn. I find a Forest with the Evolving Wilds. Alec draws and plays an island. I play an Exotic Orchard. I play Secure Tribe Elder and pass the turn. Jack draws. He plays an island for turn. Alec untaps and draws. He then passes after playing a mountain. I sacrifice the Secure Tribe Elder, and I find a Plains and put it onto battlefield tapped. I untap and draw for turn. I play a Croson Verge, then tap 3 to play a Cultivate, and Jack counters it for no apparent reason. I'm very angry. I pass, Jack untaps and draws, plays an Is It Boilerworks, bouncing the island to his hand. Jack moves to end step, he discards a mountain, then Alec casts Tell in Time, looking at the top 3 cards of his library, putting 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom, and 1 into his hand. He untaps and draws. Alec plays a Soul Ring, he plays an island, then taps 4 to cast Mizzix. I untap and draw. I then play Wood Elves, and I put a Forest onto the battlefield untapped. I play a Stomping Ground, pay 2 to have it enter untapped, and I sacrifice my Croson Verge. Jack untaps and draws, plays an island, and with the Croson Verge I find a Prairie Stream and a Breeding Pool. Jack then pays 3 to cast Wizard's Lightning on Mizzix, killing it. However, Alec then casts a Flecting Swat and points the Wizard's Lightning back at Jack, and then Alec gets an experience counter. Jack then passes, Alec untaps and draws for turn. He plays an island, then tap 6 to cast Sunbird's Invocation and passes. I untap and draw. I then pay 4 to cast my commander. When it enters, I draw a card. I then pay 2 for a Scavenging Ooze, then pass the turn. Jack untaps and draws, plays a mountain. He then casts a Body of Knowledge, which does go infinite for Niv Mizzet, so I then cast a Mana Drain, countering the Body of Knowledge and getting 5 card list during my next upkeep. Alec untaps and draws. He plays a Reliquary Tower, then pays 7 for a Jin Illuminatus. Sunbird's Invocation triggers and reveals a top 7. Alec then finds a Twinning Staff with Sunbird's Invocation. I then get 5 colourless mana from the Mana Drain after untapping and drawing. I use 3 of the colourless and add a blue and a green to play Urban Evolution. I draw 3. I then play my first land for turn and I gain 4 life. I then play 3 to cast Kodama's Reach. With Kodama's Reach I put Island into my hand and a Forest onto the battlefield tapped. I then play my extra turn from Urban Evolution and play an island. I gain 4 mana of Omnath. I tap 7 to cast Mind Spring for 5, forgetting about Omnath's mana, because I'm dumb. I then pass, discard a Jungle Shrine. Jack then untaps and draws and plays Niv Mizzet. Jack passes, Alec untaps, draws the turn. Alec pays 2 to Chaos Warp Omnath, reduced by 1 by Mizzix. Sunbird's Invocation triggers. From the Chaos Warp I reveal a Roiling Regrowth, which I put on the bottom. Alec then plays an Is It Boilerworks, bouncing land to his hand. However, later on we do realise that Chaos Warp cannot put cards on the bottom of my library. I untap and draw for turn. I then tap 6 to play Omnath again. I'll draw a card when it enters. I play a Fabled Passage, gaining 4 life. With the Fabled Passage I go and find a mountain, and I get 4 mana off Omnath. I cast Harmonize to draw 3 cards. Jack draws a card with Niv Mizzet and then deals 1 damage to my face. I then play AC Tyrant of Gaia straight with the mana from Omnath. I then play an additional land for turn. I draw a card and everyone takes 4. I then pass the turn and discard 2 cards. Jack untaps, draws for turn. He plays a mountain for turn. He taps 3 to cast Ophidian Eye, and Alec casts Negate to counter the Ophidian Eye. Jack then plays 3 to cast Dissolve, countering Negate. Alec then copies Negate with Jin and Illuminatus to counter Jack's counter. He then casts reveals off Sunbird's invocation. He whiffs off Sunbird's invocation. Jack then attacks me for 5 with Niv Mizzet. I then take 5 command damage. And with Jack's Niv Mizzet triggers from the previous turn, he killed Niv Mizzix. Alec untaps and draws. Alec then plays Comet Storm for 7, kicks it twice, so he kills off Omnath, AC, and Niv Mizzet. Jack then draws a card from Niv Mizzet and deals 1 damage to Alec. Alec then casts Part the Water Veil from the cards from Sunbird's invocation, taking an extra turn after this one. Alec then attacks Jack for 3 with Jin Illuminatus. Alec untaps for his extra turn and draws. He then replays out Mizzix. Alec then activates Desolate Lighthouse, discarding card. Alec then attacks me for 3 with the Jin Illuminatus, and I take 3. When Alec passes a turn, I exile Jack's Ophidian Knife from his graveyard using Scavenging Ooze. I untap and draw. I then tap forward to cast Crush Contraband. I exile Alec's Sunbird Invocation and his Twinning Staff. I then pay 5 to cast Karametra, God of Harvest. Then I pay 4 to cast a Maria Shepherd, and I go and find a basic land. Jack untaps and draws. Jack then replays out Niv Mizzet. Jack passes, Alec untaps and draws. Alec then pays 5 to cast Metallurgic Summonings. Alec then attacks me for 3 with Jin Illuminatus. He then passes, I untap and draw for turn. I then recast out Omnath, searching my library for plains or a forest with Karametra, and I get a bird from a Maria Shepherd. I then play a forest, I gain 4 life with Omnath and make another bird. I then cast Skyshroud Claim, go to find 2 forests from my library. I make 4 mana of Omnath and everyone takes 4. I then cast Return of the Wild Speaker, drawing 6 cards. Jack then draws 2 from Niv Mizzet and pings down 2 of my birds. I then tap 3 to play Azusa Lost But Seeking. I find another basic land and make another bird. I then play 2 lands of Azusa. I pass, Jack untaps and draws. Jack then casts a Braid and points it at my Amaria Shepherd. Jack then draws a card off Niv Mizzet and targets my bird. I then cast Flawless Maneuver to give all my creatures indestructible. Then in response, Jack casts Wizard's Retort, countering it. Jack draws 2 cards from Niv Mizzet and kills 2 birds. Jack then Chaos Warps on my commander. I put Omnath in my command zone and shuffle my library. From the Chaos Warp, I reveal Sylvan Reclamation, and it has to stay on top. Jack then attacks me for 5 with his commander, and then because I forget I have a load of birds, I choose not to block. Jack then passes. Alec untaps, draws for turn. Alec then activates Desolate Lighthouse, discarding a card and drawing a card. You could pay 6 to cast Chemist's Insight twice, replicated once. Alec then attacks me with Jin Illuminatus, and I block the Jin Illuminatus with a bird. And when Alec casts Chemist's Insight, Jack draws a card and kills off a bird. Alec passes, I untap and draw. I cast Valakut Exploration, play Rampaging Baloths. I then pay 6 to cast Sun Titan. I return the Fabled Passage with the Sun Titan, exiling a card with Valakut Exploration, making a 4/4 beast with Rampaging Baloths. I sacrifice Fabled Passage to go and find a basic. I also find 2 basics with Karametra, exiling 2 more cards with Valakut Exploration, and creating 1 beast. From Karametra's searching for a land, and from the Fabled Passage, entering. I play a land for turn, exile the top card of my library, make another beast. I play a Raminap Excavator from Valakut Exploration, play Fabled Passage from my graveyard, from my additional land. I then play Tatyova from exile. I sacrifice Fabled Passage to go and find basic land. I find a mountain. I draw a card, gain a life, exile the top card of my library, and make a beast. I then attack Jack with Karametra for 6, as I have Devotion, meaning it's a creature. And when I pass the turn, the cards from Valakut Exploration go back to my graveyard and everyone takes 4. Jack untaps and draws. Jack plays 2 to cast Ominous Steeds. Jack then plays Narset Pasture of Veils, bringing us flashbacks from the previous game. Alec then casts Leadership Vacuum in response, targeting Jack, meaning he returns Niv Mizzet to his command zone, but then Jack casts Arcane Denial to counter that spell. Jack draws 2. He then points 2 damage at me and I take 2, but changes his mind to kill off my Scavenging Ooze. He then -2s Narset, looking at the top 4 cards of his library. From Narset, he reveals Desperate Ritual and puts it into his hand. Alec untaps, draws from Arcane Denial, and then doesn't draw any for turn, and Jack draws 1. However, he does forget about it. Alec then wants to make a deal with Jack to kill off Narset because it's a degenerate card. He attacks it, kills it, and then Alec jumpstarts Chemist's Insight, drawing 2 cards. And he replicates it, so he draws 4. Jack then draws a card from Niv Mizzet and pings me for 1. Alec then taps 3 to cast Rolling Earthquake for 6, dealing 6 damage to each creature and each player, wiping all my creatures away apart from Karametra, who then becomes an enchantment due to lack of devotion. Alec passes, I untap and draw for turn. I then play Rites of Flourishing. I then play Abundance. I pay 10 to replay out Omnath. Jack then counters my Omnath with an Essence Scatter. I then counter that with Negate. When Omnath enters, I'll draw a card and I go until I find a land. I play a Boros Garrison, bouncing a forest to my hand, and I gain 4 life. I exile top card with Valak Exploration. I tap 5 to cast Zendikar Roll from underneath Valak Exploration. I play an extra land for turn with Rites of Flourishing, exile the top card, and I make a 2/2, and I gain 4 mana of Omnath. I then attack Jack for 6, killing off Jack. I'm beginning the slug out between me and Alec. Alec draws an additional card from Rites of Flourishing. He then plays Mountain. He then taps 8 to replay out Mizzix. He taps 2 to double cast. So when he casts his next instant or sorcery, he copies it. He makes a 2/2 of Metallurgic Summonings. He pays 4 to cast Beacon of Tomorrows, taking 2 extra turns and shuffling it into his library. He then makes an 8/8 with Metallurgic Summonings. He then passes to himself, untaps and draws. He pays 3 to cast Commander Sphere. He then plays 2 islands with Rites of Flourishing. He then plays Enchanter's Incinerator. He pays 4 to cast a Murmuring Mystic, and pays 2 to cast Reality Shift, making a bird, making a 2/2, and exiling my commander. And I manifest the top card. Alec then passes to himself, untapping and drawing. He plays 2 mountains from Rites of Flourishing, and the other for turn. Jack then taps Commander Spheres for a blue, sacrifices it, and draws a card. He then casts Izzet Locket. He then taps 4 to sacrifice his Izzet Locket and draw 2. He pays 17 to cast Finale of Devastation for 15. However, it is reduced by 5, so he pays 12 mana. He makes a bird, and then he can cast 3 instant or sorceries from his graveyard. And because he paid 10 or more, they're each copied 3 times. He makes a 17/17 token with Metallurgic Summonings. He then casts Reality Shift and double casts out of his graveyard, exiling all my creatures, and then he exiles all the manifest tokens. He then exiles all my manifests again. He then attacks me with a lot of stuff. I block an 8/8 token with a manifest, and I trade one of my 2/2s with one of his 2/2s, and I take the remaining damage. When I untap and draw, I name land for the first card, and then non-land for the second. I get a County High Expedition and a Mystic Monastery. I then cast Sylvan Reclamation, exiling Metallurgic Summonings, and Alec's Soul Ring. I play Mystic Monastery for turn, exiling the top card of my library, revealing a Harrow. I then get an Elemental from playing a land. I then replay out Omnath for 12 mana. I go until I find a non-land card and find an Admonition Angel. I pay 6 to cast the Admonition Angel. I pass the turn, Alec takes 1 from Harrow going to my graveyard. Alec untaps and draws the turn. Alec casts Opt, scrying 1, putting the card on the bottom and drawing a card, and he makes a bird. Alec then casts Crackling Drake and draws a card when it enters. He pays 2 to cast a Goblin and Electromancer. Alec then activates Desolate Lighthouse, drawing a card and discarding a card. Alec casts Into the Royal, kicking it, bouncing Admonition Angel to my hand. He attacks me with all of his creatures which can attack, apart from Mizzix. I block Alec's 17/17 with my manifest. I then block the 8/8 with an Elemental token. I then take 10 and go down to 18. I then pay 6 to cast Rebel Hulk from the manifest token, killing Alec's 17/17 because the Rebel Hulks are 28/28 due to me having 28 lands. Alec passes, I untap and draw, and I go until I find a land, and I find a command tower, and I go until I find a non-land, and I find an Avenger of Zendikar. I pay 6 to recast Admonition Angel, and Alec casts the Arcane Denial. I pay 7 to cast Avenger of Zendikar, and I make 29 plants when it enters. I play a land, giving my plants a +++ counter. I exile the top card of my library, and I make an Elemental from Zendikar's Royal. I play a second land, exiling the top card of my library. All my plants get another +++ counter. I get another Elemental token. I then get 4 mana from Omnath, and gain 4 life from before. I then pay 5 to cast Escape from the Wilds, exiling the top 5 cards of my library, and I can play an additional land this turn. I play an additional land from Escape to the Wilds, and Alec takes 4. I attack Alec with Rebel Hulk, and he blocks with his Goblin and Electromancer. I pay 5 to cast Time Wipe to protect myself from dying from all of Alec's flyers. And I bounce the Avenger of Zendikar to my hand. I then repay out Avenger of Zendikar, making 31 plant tokens. And when I pass, the card from Valak at expiration goes to my grave and Alec takes 1. He untaps, draws 2 from Arcane Denial and once per turn. He casts Ponder, looking at the top 3. Alec then puts on top and draws from Ponder. Alec pays 3 to cast Frantic Search, drawing 2, discarding 2 and untapping 3 lands. He pays 4 to cast Pirate's Prize, drawing 2 and making a treasure token. He pays 8 to cast Beacon of Tomorrows again, and then it shuffles back into his library. Alec untaps and draws for his extra turn. He pays 2 to cast an Arcane Signet, and pays 5 for Chandra Heart of Fire. He +1s it, discarding his hand and then exiles the top 3 cards of his library. He pays an island. He pays 7 for Swarm Intelligence. He pays 1 to cast Brainstorm, copying it, drawing 3, putting 2 on top, and then drawing 3 and putting 2 on top. He pays a second land for turn. He pays 5 and sacrifices a treasure to cast Khans to Temporal Sundering. And he gets 2 extra turns. He bounces my Avenger of Zendikar and a plant to my hand. He then taps 10 to cast recast out Mizzix. He then pays 2 to cast Prophetic Bolt, copying it, dealing 8 damage to my face. He reveals Tamo's Epiphany for the first one and puts it into his hand. And then reveals Mystic Confluence for the second card. He then casts Tamo's Epiphany for 1, and he does it twice, scrying 4, then drawing 2 cards, and then he repeats that. He then casts Tezzeret's Gambit, paying 3 life, drawing 2 cards, and he does that twice, sending him down to 8. He proliferates an Experience counter and Chandra twice. He pays land for turn. He then plays a Mystic Sanctuary, and he puts Chaos Walk back on top. He pays 2 to cast Beacon of Tomorrows, and at this point I concede, due to the fact that he's going to take another 2 turns, and I can't really do much after that. So post-game review. This game was a very long one. It was about an hour and a half. In fact, it did go on longer than this. I didn't actually concede. However, as we were playing on webcam, I couldn't see how big Alec's library was. The turn after he cast Amnatu's Augury, which he would have copied twice, because he had 24 cards in his library, he would have 100% got Beacon of Tomorrows again, allowing him to take infinite turns. And with Blue Sun Zenith in his library, he would eventually be able to get it into his hand and then mill me out, because he'd be taking so many extra turns. He'd be able to find the Blue Sun Zenith, cast it, and then make me mill out. What was the most valuable card of the game? It was definitely Beacon of Tomorrows. Because this card allowed Alec to take multiple extra turns from a single card, because instead of exiling or doing something else funny, it shuffles back into your library so you can recast it later, which is an incredibly powerful card. I hope you enjoyed episode 4 of Sporefrog Shenanigans. There'll be another episode in 2 weeks, and that will be a special episode. It will come out slightly early though. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.